Hello everybody, welcome to Dakman Productions and welcome to Conrail Rail. And this video is going to be about the Bill B's Holiday Boxcar Challenge. So what he does is he puts out this challenge during the holidays for people to run their boxcars. And I said to myself, why not break out my Conrail Auto Parts card train again for this year's challenge. Now I did that last year for 2023, but instead of breaking out that same train, I decided, hey, why not add on to it? So for those of you who are not familiar, I do have a Conrail Auto Parts train. It was the Lionel Conrail Big Blue set is how they introduced these monster 86-foot high cube boxcars. So yeah, check out the size of this 86-foot high cube boxcar. It's pretty huge. And yeah, this is not G scale, this is O gauge. This is a true scale O gauge 86-foot high cube boxcar. And these things are great. I remember going to a Run for Fun event in 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, and Harry said, bring one of your Conrail locomotives, I got something for you to pull with it. So I did, and he set me up with 86-foot high cube boxcars. I fell in love with them, and I looked on the Lionel website. It said that these cars were able to run on 054 curves, which is what I had at the time. When I did run 2 or 3, it was okay. It didn't like it that much, but it went around it. But as soon as I hit 4 and 5, that was the end of it. What would happen is around the 054, any little jolt or movement, slack movement in the couplers, and it would lock the couplers to one side or another, and then when it went to go straight again, it couldn't because it overextended and was locked into place, and it would derail. So I learned the hard way that no, you should not run these on 054 as Lionel recommended at that time. Now I don't know if they changed that in the description, but please do not run these on 054. Now, I have one of two choices. I could have sold them back off or rebuild the layout. At the time, these things were not selling that well. Pretty much hobby shops were ending up almost giving these things away. I remember buying like 3 or 4 from Grzybowski's for $70 each, brand new. So they weren't... I wasn't going to get my investment back if I went to sell them back off again, because I had already had this huge investment. So, plan B was to rebuild the whole layout so I could run these. So, I'm glad that I did. With the 072, as my collection kept getting bigger, and I got up to, 16 car, 17 car train. Again, it did not like the 072. The problem my layout, the way I designed it, has way too many curves in it. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't probably do something different. But the way my basement is and all that stuff, I don't know. However, I ended up rebuilding again to the outside loop of being 080. And it was a lot more happier. So, for this particular run, I added on Atlas 60-foot high cube Berwick boxcars. And a couple of 60-foot boxcars, regular standard height. So we're going to go ahead and run this boxcar challenge. Now Conrail really did run a mix of 86-foot and 60-foot boxcars in their auto parts train. It really did happen. And so there was a downfall of these. They were very popular in the 70s and 80s, and they started to disappear. And why was that? Why did these disappear? So not to get too political, but I'll mention it anyway, President Clinton signed NAFTA into law, opening up the borders to Mexico for manufacturing. And a lot of American auto manufacturers started building plants in Mexico, so the need for these cars dwindled. So what happened is railroads such as Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, CSX started to repurpose these. These were originally made in 8-door and 4-door versions. The 4-door version, as you see here, was for the Dodge and Ford plants. The 8-door versions were for GM plants such as Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and Buick. However, Chevy wanted both versions. They wanted the 4-door and the 8-door versions at their plants. So between Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern, they rebuilt all the 8-door cars back into a 4-door car and repurposed these into for lighter loads such as paper. So these made perfect cars for hauling paper products. Because in a car like that, you wouldn't want to haul anything real heavy because the bottom would drop out of it. So I figured I'd give you guys that little bit of history. These are still around. You still see them here and there. But at any rate, let's run this Conrail Auto Parts train. Let's go.
Tower, the air test is complete. Can we depart to the main line? Over. Negative. Please stand by. Over. Copy that. Sit tight. Out. Dispatch air. Take the green. Over. Thank you, sir. Clear to the outbound. Here we go. Out.
And notice how the locomotive still hasn't come through yet. So yeah, I got a pretty big layout. So I hope you guys enjoyed this boxcar challenge run for 2024. Sometimes you guys don't see the amount of time that it takes to do videos such as this one, even at my own home. So at this point in time, without the editing, I actually have 4 hours invested into doing this video. So that's a lot of my time that is spent. And for the reason why I'm at the 4-hour mark at this point in time is because, number one, I have to pack everything up that was on the layout to make room. And so I like to put everything in boxes. I don't put things on shelves because I don't want to get things to get dusty. So I keep them dust free by putting them back in their original box and displaying them on a shelf. So I have to pack everything up and unpack the ones that I want to run. That's not too bad. But then, since this was a brand new train setup, basically, because I have not run this combination before, there was a lot of derailments and things going on that I had to figure out. And that happens, especially when you run a long train like this, and it does get frustrating, but I'm not the type of person to give up. I figure it out. I'll keep going until I figure it out. So I was able to run the 17 cars without any problems, the 86-foot high cube box cars. Once I added on these other 60-foot cars to this train, that's when problems arose. So I finally figured out what was going on. The Atlas Berwick cars were way too heavy to put at the end of the train or at the end of the 86-foot high cube box cars. I wanted the 86-foot high cube box cars to be first, but sometimes when it comes to O gauge and the issues with weight, you don't get to pick and choose what comes first and what comes last. Once I took the Atlas O 60-foot high cube Berwick box cars and put them up front, my problems went away. And I was having some weird problems too. The trailing locomotive was derailing. There was cars derailing, 86-foot high cube box cars. And then I noticed even in an 080 curve, the box cars were starting to pick up in an 080 curve. So I'm like, okay, I see where the problem's at. The problem is the train's too heavy at the end because it's starting to look, is called string lining in railroad terms. So it's trying to pull the train off of the curve because you got the heavy stuff at the back. So I ended up taking the 4 Atlas Berwick cars, put them up front. The train ran flawless. Took me a little time to figure it out. And then after that, it's just a matter of shooting scenes. Once I got that figured out, of course, I was having problems with the Lionel couplers opening up. And I'm sure many of you have had those issues, and it drives me crazy when they open up for no apparent reason. Harry Henning goes over on how to make those adjustments, whether it's a climatic coupler or any type of coupler. He shows you how to make proper adjustments so they don't open up again. But I finally got it figured out, and I was happy with the run at the end. It was running pretty flawless. Every time I make up a new long train, I gotta figure it out. Especially on this layout. That train that I just ran probably would have run better if it was on 096, the way I wanted it to run. But since I have limitations here, I have to make the train to my limitations on the layout, especially a long one, if that makes sense. On another note, it's hard to believe that these Lionel 86-foot high cube box cars are being listed on eBay for $200, and then when I go to went to the train shows. I'm like, oh, I'll just pick them up cheaper there. And they're still $200. So it's funny how when they first came out in 2015, you couldn't give them away, and now you're finding them for $200 if you can find them. For those who are going to say, I need the Lionel a 6-foot high cube boxcar Conrail with the EOT device on the end of it, well, I do have that. I have it right here. I just didn't run it this time around because for this video, I left it off because I wanted to run a caboose for my auto parts train. I hope you enjoyed the Bill B's Holiday Boxcar Challenge. And we'll catch you guys next time around. Next training show, we'll see you trackside. Goodbye.